breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, kicking off another edition of the show. Hope you're all having a tremendous Monday. It's over, folks. The long summer of our discontent has come to an end. Or winter of our discontent. Is that how it goes?
What do you call 4 winters?
Yeah. Scott Jor, Ben Anderson hanging out for the first segment. Ben, we can't thank you enough. There's a different vibe at the end of this year as opposed there was last year. I think now we had an expiration date to the tanking, and that's not saying that the Jazz are going to be great next year, but the certainty of what they're trying to accomplish is much different going into next year as what we've had over the last couple of years.
Yeah, the narrative is different. And once they acquired Jaren Jackson Jr., that was apparent inside the locker room, inside the building, among media, among the fan base. Everything turned over. And now the Jazz have to legitimize that and justify it. But I do think you got a sense of that, though I do think there are still some very tired people inside the building after the last 4 years. I think it's been hard on people.
Oh, I can't even imagine. And you probably, being around the team and being in the locker room as well, probably felt like the cloud had been lifted a little bit when that Jaren Jackson trade went down.
Oh, talking to important people inside the building, talking to unimportant people inside the building, which means other media members. Absolutely. You could fully tell. I mean, I've said this a few times, talking to Will Hardy after the trade, not about the trade, but just about the game, you almost couldn't get Will to stop answering a question. He was like, you could tell he was excited and his gears were turning finally again, that he just wanted to kind of expand and expound and expound and just give you more and more. And it's just like, oh yeah, he's excited. There's an energy now around this team that I think will officially start next month. And we'll see a week from now. They should do this coin toss to figure out where the Jazz are poised to pick and maybe know they're going to hold on to their draft pick or still have a 0.6% chance of losing it. But, I was talking to somebody very important, and they said, May and June are going to be really fun. They were excited about this. So there is some of that.
So let's go through the scenarios here. Right now, the Jazz are tied for that 4th spot. Mm-hmm. So there will be a coin toss that will take place next week.
Austin Ainge this morning said somebody internally, meaning with the Jazz, there was somewhat speculation, not from the league officially, told him that he thinks next Monday they're going to do this coin toss.
Well, I wonder, is it over Zoom or is there somebody from the law firm of
how do you actually
Handy
know?
and Handy? I don't know. A law firm that men can trust.
Right.
That the Jazz can trust.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. So you got the coin toss, and then whoever wins that will be at the 4. The other team will be at the 5. If the Jazz win that coin toss, which they won't because they never win stuff that matters, they will. But if they do win it, they'll be 4, and they'll be guaranteed that spot because you can't drop any lower than 8.
They can't fall further than 8, but they do still split the draft odds with Sacramento, the lottery balls. So the Jazz, regardless of what happens, coin toss or not, they do have a 45% chance of moving into the top 4 and a 99.4% chance of holding on to their pick. Even if they lose the coin toss, but if they win the coin toss, that 0.6% chance goes away.
So they can't improve their lottery odds by winning the coin toss. All they can do is ensure that they hold on to the pick.
So they might be able to gain 1 or 2 lottery combinations because if there's an odd number, and I've never been in the lottery room. You get something like 1,500 lottery combinations.
Yes.
It's a huge number. There's 10 or 20,000, I think, combinations. And you just get a book, is my understanding. It says your numbers are from 1,500 to 2,800. Those are your numbers. So when the first lottery ball comes out, if it's 15, okay, it's in your range. And then is it going to actually stay at 15 in your range, where you are? And if there's an odd number between the Jazz and the Kings, the Jazz will get one more combination. But that, not meaningful in the slightest.
No, okay. So obviously you've got the coin toss, and then May 10th is the biggest day in Jazz franchise history.
Scotty, I think you and I doing the? No, I mean we did the whole lottery at JCW's last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, you and I did it because they did it on Sunday.
Yeah.
Last year they must have done it on Monday. I don't remember. But this year again they're doing it on a Sunday. So I don't know, me and Chandler or you and me or whoever will be here. I'm sure we'll listen to what Lloyd tells me to do.
Whatever Lloyd tells us.
Yeah, whatever Lloyd says.
Yeah,
I'm available. But yes, we will be watching to see how far the Jazz fall or rise. You just guess you never know.
It's really
Rise, Ben.
Rise.
Before they rise.
Great.
Put it in the atmosphere.
Sure.
we're gonna put that out there that the Jazz are gonna be having a top 3 pick. All right, so give me your tiers on the draft, and I know you haven't spent a ton of time.
I'm ready though. I got to put my hat on.
exactly.
Like I got to turn the page.
We're all now going to be in draft mode. But is it 1, 2, 3, and then is that tier 1, or is it 1 and then a tier 2 and 3, or how do you see that shaking out?
I still think it's 3. I really do. I still think, that people, and I did as well. You kind of worry like, I don't really remember a lot of big dunks from Cam Boozer.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what was the last good Julius Randle dunk you remember? It's like, well, now give Julius Randle perfect decision-making, and you have Cam Boozer. It's like, oh, well, Julius Randle's a good player. He's a really good player, and if he made the right decision every time he touched it, maybe he's a great player. NBA teams are really smart. They will know that, and AJ and Darren Peterson, and they will – I think that's the group at the top, certainly. And then there's Caleb Wilson at 4 by himself, who, we didn't get to see in the tournament because he broke his hand. But he just has the measurables and the athleticism, so he's a different caliber of player than everybody behind him. And then you get into this group of guards, really, that is, Darius Acuff and Kingston Fleming and Keaton Wagler and that, maybe Braden Burries. There's some names there that get a little hairy, and it's going to be team preference at that point.
Is there a point in the draft where the Jazz shift from best player available to drafting by need?
You shouldn't ever.
Yes, I know.
Teams do. I do think the Jazz might need more defense and size. And so that might lead them towards a player like Burries from Arizona versus Darius Acuff, who's little but scores a lot. But the Jazz don't need little, and they don't need scoring.
Exactly.
So is that need? Sure, you're drafting by need there, because I do think there's a real world where, Darius Acuff is scoring 25 points a game, and that's probably a better player than what the Jazz need. But, this is kind of a funny – I was thinking about this yesterday. You go back and you look at the Keontae George draft and all the things that teams got wrong. And Jazz really nailed it with Keontae at 15, even though we didn't know that at the time and probably didn't know that until this year.
Yeah.
But, man, all these guys around him that were guards are out of the league, and Kobe Buffkin's not playing anymore, and I don't know, all these different guards that were in that conversation.
That's a name I've totally forgotten.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Smith signed a 10-day contract or whatever, rest of season 2-way contract with the Lakers yesterday. It was like he was in the draft with Keontae, was right in that conversation. It's like, okay, so Cason Wallace was drafted ahead of Keontae. Cason Wallace does some things that the Jazz desperately need. He's a A-plus defensive player, decent point guard. But you look at his stats, he's averaging 8, 3, and 3. It's like Keontae averages 24 and 7. That's a way better player. Would you rather have Cason Wallace or Keontae George? I mean, truthfully, the answer is Keontae. Well, if that's the case, then you got to take Darius Acuff over Braden Burries. Even if 3 years from now you wish you had some of the things that Cason Wallace does, the guy who just gives you so much is probably a better player. And that's where it gets really hairy and difficult, and you have to weigh out what you think this needs to look like in a couple of years.
Well, and it's really an interesting situation, because now that you do have, a guy that is playing extremely well, do you draft around him in team building? So you do have your guy averaging 24 and 7. So now do you draft with a Burry guy thinking, okay, well, that'll strengthen us defensively? Right.
And then the mistake there is, well, how soon can he actually help you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep. Cooper Flagg's awesome. How many games did the Mavericks win this year? None?
Yeah. How much did Wemby help in year one for
year
San Antonio?
I think they were around 40 wins, So his first year, he's not helping you. His second year, maybe he's ready to help you, whoever it is. Third year, they're probably starting to play well. Well, what do we think this Jazz team's going to look like in 3 years? We have no idea, which is why you have to draft best player available, because it doesn't matter if you have the best rookie. You asked me last week, who would I vote for Rookie of the Year, Con Knipple or Cooper Flagg? And I just have this part of me that's gnawing to say it's Cooper Flagg, because in 3 years, Cooper's going to be so much better than Con Knipple. Well, so don't worry about who the best first-year player is or who fits. And that's why drafting for fit is such a bad idea, unless you're really in the 20s or 30s. And even then, the key examples of that are Jimmy Butler. Yeah. Jimmy Butler's the 30th pick. Well, Jimmy Butler wasn't good until his third year either. And, Jokic was great. He didn't win Rookie of the Year. Now, he ended up being a better player than Karl Anthony Towns, but they were rookies together. It doesn't really matter if you're good as a first-year player.
So take away what we've seen out of Cooper Flagg this year. And I know what your answer is going to be here. But somehow eliminate the last 7 months of Cooper Flagg from your memory and put Cooper Flagg the college player in this year's draft? Is he still number 1 overall?
I do think he's definitely still number 1. He's definitely no later than 2. There was an argument that AJ DiBonsa could go over Cooper. Now, AJ is not a good defensive player, or at least did not play good defense at BYU, and that may have been a requirement. That may have been we got to have you on the floor as much as possible. So save your energy and don't get in foul trouble, because if you do, we're going to be in real trouble. Cooper didn't have that advantage at Duke. He had to play both sides of the floor and, was the best player. I do think Cooper would go number 1. I'd have to go back and look at, exactly what his points per game were, but, he's also he's the same age as AJ DiBonsa.
Yes.
He reclassified. Yep. You got to remember, he was supposed to be in this draft class. So, he's already probably a top 100 NBA player, if not better. You think of how good he would have been in college this year had he gone back for his sophomore season. He was as good as these guys were a year ahead of them. I think that still would have given him a major edge that he's a year younger than all of those guys.
Was that Cooper in his camp playing the long game?
I wonder if they were a little afraid of this class being so deep and recognizing that last year's class, while good, didn't really have a rival for him. So I was a little surprised that they made him jump a year up. That's not super common. In fact, for a while, we've seen teams
push him
the other way, especially like 7th and 8th graders. That's where it's starting to happen. So Braden Burries, who we were just talking about from Arizona, is a true freshman. He's older than Ace Bailey by a full year. And I think that's probably what happened there. He probably got reclassified older when he was a much younger player. So, let me pull up. I'm honestly really curious what Cooper put up at Duke.
You bring up that, and I wonder if this happened with Cooper to a certain extent. I don't know much of his history, but I'll go to, and I think you'd be fine in me giving this example, but Pace Mannion's son, Nico, they reclassified him back when he was that 7th, 8th grade, and then when he was a junior, they're like, okay, he's had a schedule, then they pushed him back up. And so he ended up exactly where he was supposed to be, even though it appeared that they pushed him forward, when in reality, 5 years previous, they pushed him back.
Right. And I will be curious if the NCAA gets through this rule of you only have X amount of years of eligibility,
After
19 to 24, whatever they say it is, a 5-year, flat 5-year run. You don't want to really reclassify because you want to have a young freshman. You don't want to have an old freshman anymore, because conceivably you could say, well, I've got 25, I can get to whatever that extra year is, as opposed to being older.
All right. So you look ahead for this Jazz offseason. Your number 1 priority outside of the draft, is it Walker Kessler?
It's got to be. Yeah, it's getting Walker back. And ideally, you get him at a good price. You may have hurt yourself in your ability to do that.
Is this a Gordon Hayward 2.0 when you rolled the dice on Gordon and essentially he made you pay?
It could be. I mean, this certainly, I wonder if Walker.
And by the way, when I make pay, I'm not talking about when he left. I'm talking about the contract before that everybody lost their minds about.
Right. Dennis Lindsey said, we're not going to give you a max contract, but if you can find it, go do it. And he went and found it. Yeah. And the Jazz said, great, we're signing you, no question about it. And then it really hurt that relationship. I do think this relationship with Walker has been damaged. You will recognize here that in all the end of season conversations, Walker is not one of them. I don't know if Walker didn't want to talk or whatever, but he was not out there. So would Walker last year have been okay just saying, like, I just want to be locked up and be secure, give me 4 years and $100 million and that's okay? And now maybe it's 4 years and 110 or 120 or 130, and then you're looking at a $30 million price tag. I have no idea. I don't know if the Jazz even offered him a contract. I was told very early last year. Now, it was after free agency started, I believe. I couldn't remember the exact date, but it was pretty obvious that the Jazz were not going to give Walker a deal last summer, because they wanted to go into this year with more salary cap flexibility, and they ended up kind of not needing it because they went out and traded Jaren Jackson Jr., and they're not going to, go out and need to go and sign a big player. Jaren Jackson Jr. is their big player. So that might have been a mistake. That might have hurt them. And I understand why they didn't know Jaren Jackson Jr. was going to become available, so they wanted to maintain flexibility as long as possible. But it could come back to bite them, and then that hurts because, Keontae's up for an extension. And these guys are going to start making more money. Or if you do need to go add a player to be that missing piece, that $8 million extra you're paying Walker potentially prevents you from being able to do that.
Well, and also that's another reason why you would love to be able to hit on this draft pick in a top 3, because you get them on the cheap for at least the first few years.
Yeah, it's why Ace needs to take a real step forward. You know, and we do our mailbag with the podcast, and the big question was, can the Jazz afford to keep Cody Williams next year? It's like, absolutely. Cody costs, even at $6 million, which is an overpay for Cody, The Jazz are actually not up against it this season. They're fine. Their books look just fine this season. But next year it's going to be really tight. 27, 28, not 26, 27. They're fine this next season starting in October. After that, it's going to get much more difficult.
All right, so you look ahead to roster building next year and take free agency and the draft out of it a little bit. Who that got extended opportunities outside of maybe Cody and Ace do you anticipate really help themselves in this last stretch of the season?
Flip the most of anybody. I think he just, at $3 million a year, again, I wish I could say absolutely blind, don't worry about the cost, but he only makes $3 million. That's a really good number for a guy who can probably give you 15 to 20 minutes a night if he has to. And he's not a 5, and that might be an issue for him because the Jazz are going to need a true backup 5. I think even if Jaren plays there sometimes next season, I do think they're going to still want to go get a player who is, what the Celtics got with Nimi Keita, and then he really exploded and turned into a great player. You go and you find a guy like that. Maybe it's Nurk, or maybe it's somebody else altogether. It could easily be, anybody. There's a million bigs out there that you come in as your 5th big or your 4th big and your backup center who doesn't need to play a lot, but just needs to be big and grab some rebounds. Those guys are available, but Flip's ability to back up Lowry, probably play next to Jaren, is going to be really beneficial.
What's my boy Conchar?
He's around. I think he's going to be on the team.
Come on, Mr. Triple-Double.
There is honestly something about his ability to fill the void of whatever the team doesn't have this night in this matchup, I can do. If I need to rebound, I'll rebound. If I need to get steals, I get steals. If I need to get assists, I'll play backup point guard. He actually might alleviate some of that pressure to go and find your 3rd string point guard, which I thought could be potentially like Vince Williams, who also came over in that trade and then tore up his knee and is not a part of the team anymore. John Conchar might be able to give you some more of that kind of big guard playmaker when needed. So I think he's maybe the last player in the rotation next year, but I think he's probably in the rotation. I think Svi is as well.
That's the next player I was going to ask you about, because I think that he has really entrenched himself here.
I think they loved him. I think Will Hardy fell in love with him. And I know he didn't play at all this season and people didn't see him. It's because he got too good. It's because the Jazz wanted to lose games, and Svi being out there, he was just too effective. He's a good defensive player, which Austin Ainge and Will Hardy both said this morning, non-negotiable. We have to get a lot better defensively, especially on the perimeter. I bet Svi was the Jazz's best perimeter defender this year. We just didn't see him a whole lot.
All right. Have you ever been around a game quite like what you saw against Memphis in terms of who was out there on the court? Because you've seen some interesting games over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
That one's got to be at the top of the list.
That was certainly the team the Jazz played against who had the most. Who are the?
Yeah.
I'm a sicko. I'm a diehard. I had not heard most of those players. I've never heard of most of those players. 2 of them I had some real understanding of. I'd written draft profiles on them. They played 6 guys total. I knew who 2 of them were. So no, what is that? 75% of the roster. I didn't know who it was. 66% of the roster. I really didn't know who they were, which is very bizarre. And look, they could say almost the same thing about the Jazz outside of Cody Williams and Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
So and John Conchar, who played and was familiar.
All right. So this time next year, locker room clean out, whenever it ends, whether it's the end of the regular season or into the playoffs or after a playing game, whatever the case is, what are we going to be talking about in regards to Ace Bailey, as we recap his season?
I wonder if there's going to be some disappointment that he didn't take a bigger leap. A lot of times people talk about this sophomore jump, and honestly, it's not skill-wise. It's usually physical. And then sometimes I think you have to recalibrate your game to match your physical improvement, and they call it the sophomore slump or whatever causes it. I remember Walker coming back after his first year, and Walker was so good as a rookie. And he said, man, I am in so much better shape going into year 2. I'm going to be way more athletic, and you're going to see all these things. Then he had a terrible year 2. It was really bad. And it's what happened? It was just he couldn't quite get the athleticism to match up with where his skill was, and he probably let his skill slip a little bit because he was spending too much time in the gym. Even Austin Ainge this morning said, Ace's entire summer is going to be about being in the gym and building out his body. And then Will Hardy brought up his body. It's the most important tool you have. It's the most important thing guys have. It's why the draft combine is funny. It's you can watch these guys go out and scrimmage. It's they just want to see what your actual measurements are. Are you actually 6'7", or are you 6'9", or are you 6'5"? And if you're 6'9", you're going to go in the top 5, and if you're 6'5", you're going to go 14 to 18. It's that simple. So Ace working on his body is going to be huge, but I wonder if it doesn't allow his game to catch up. I'm curious if he understands, how to blend his skills with what a physical advantage would actually be. Because right now, his crazy shot making, the fadeaways, the pull up from 18 feet, the one dribble pull up, those are actually a response to not being a strong person.
Yes, that's a good point.
Why does Giannis not have a mid-range jump shot?
Because he doesn't need it.
Why do you need it?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can run everybody over, why did Magic Johnson not learn to shoot threes? Well, Mark Price needed to. Mark Price better shoot threes, otherwise he's not in the NBA. Well, Magic Johnson was 6'9" and could bowl you over, and Giannis does the same thing. Ace can't bowl anyone over yet, so he's got to be really good at that jump shot. Once he starts to bowl you over, then he's got to start realizing, okay, do I need to keep doing that, or am I going to still stick to the 18-footer, which is where I've programmed my mind and I'm comfortable? I won't be surprised if that's not in concert next year, and that might get to year 3 when it really figures it out.
Yeah. Ben, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, here he is, Ben Anderson, Jazz Insider, and you can catch him over at KSLSports.com, and you got a Jazz Notes podcast you're going to tape here in just a minute.
Yep.
That I've kept you way too long.
No, not a problem.
Well, Maddie's up next,
Yep,
and then you're
I
going to
know.
do all that other
Poor
stuff.
Chandler.
All right, coming up next, we continue to get you ready for the Jazz offseason, but had a chance to sit down and chat with Steve Starks, talking about Major League Baseball, talking about the Power District, even some conversation about the Bees and Real Salt Lake with Messi coming to town. We'll chat with Steve Starks coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This guy actually has friends. Nice. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Happy Monday, everybody. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Scott Gerard with you. Hey, we got a busy day. A lot of Jazz talk. You'll hear from Austin Ainge coming up a little bit later on. You'll hear from Will Hardy. You'll hear from Jaren Jackson. We've got you covered from top to bottom, all things Jazz related. It's locker room cleanout day for the Jazz as the season mercifully came to an end. Jazz finished the year 22-60 on the year. I do believe, though, that this is going to be the last time we're going to see a 20 in front of the Jazz regular season win total. You're going to see wins going forward. Now, look, I'm not going to say this team's a playoff team. I don't know what it's going to look like next year, but it will be significantly better than what you've seen over the last 2 or 3 years. So take some solace in that. Now you get to judge the team on wins and losses. Now there's a higher level of accountability because the Jazz have set themselves up for that. A couple dates to keep in mind. Next week, sometime, there will be a coin flip. If the Jazz win that coin flip between them and the, why am I spacing who they're going up the coin flip with? Is it the Clippers? I don't know. Anyway, the coin flip will take place next week. If the Jazz win that, Sacramento. If the Jazz win that pick or win that coin toss, they will be in the 4 slot, which means the Jazz cannot fall any further than 8. That guarantees the Jazz will hold on to their draft pick. It will not go to OKC. Now, if the Jazz lose that coin flip, they'll be slotted at 5, which means that there is a 0.4 chance that somebody could leapfrog 4 teams could leapfrog the Jazz, push them all the way down to 9. So, again, the likelihood of the Jazz not drafting, very, very slim, but there is still somewhat of a chance. Then after that, May 10th, that's when all the excitement happens. That's your NBA draft lottery. That's when we'll find out exactly where the Jazz will be picking coming up in the end of June, and then there is your NBA draft. So there's your schedule of events to look forward to after the Jazz end up losing the game to the Los Angeles Lakers last night and get ready for the long offseason. All right, had a chance to chat with Steve Starks. This aired on KSL TV on Saturday and Sunday nights. Now, you only heard about a 4-minute version of this. This is 12 minutes where I had a chance to sit down and chat with the CEO of the Larry H. Miller organization, and certainly baseball coming to mind. We even talk a little Bees. We even talk a little dirty sodas, and a lot of stuff going on with the Salt Lake Bees and Real Salt Lake. But let's be honest here. It all comes back to Major League Baseball. It all comes back to expansion for Major League Baseball, and it all starts with the development of that Power District. I had a chance to ask Steve on the progress of that.
It's a remarkable site, and I think for a lot of years it probably went unnoticed But when you think about the proximity to I-15, 215, I-80, tracks line from the airport, 5 minutes from downtown, it's this 100-acre plus site that's the perfect location for a future Major League Baseball stadium. And so our team's been hard at work since we announced nearly 3 years ago now our intent. And so we've hired, as an example, Field Operations, which is one of the world's foremost landscape architects, to come and redesign and restore the Jordan River right there in that area. Now, we're going vertical on the tallest commercial office building in the state that's being built right now, a 10-story glass building on site. And we're working closely with the State Fair Park. We'll have some other announcements in the coming years, but we're really excited about that site. And as it relates to Major League Baseball, that's so important because most expansion candidates don't have a location. They don't have a public-private partnership. They don't even have an ownership group. And when you think about our readiness, we check the box on all of those things. We have a proven ownership group with a Miller family. We have this tremendous site close to downtown and our capital city, which is important to Utah, that we keep our professional sports downtown. And we have this amazing market, youngest population, fastest growing state, great economy. And so there's a whole lot of things that we like, not only about that site, but that site as it relates to Major League Baseball.
I'm sure you can't go to a gas station or a grocery store and ask for timelines. There's so many things that need to take place before that even becomes a conversation with Major League Baseball. So the point of emphasis is let's make sure that we're ready, and when they're ready, we'll be ready.
Yeah. Stephen Nesbitt for The Athletic wrote an article, and a national article, and it said essentially we are a front runner. And it's nice that we're considered as a front runner. It's nice that people across the country are acknowledging all those boxes that I just talked about that are checked, that we're ready. But we want to continue to be on the offense, and we want to be shovel ready, literally, when Major League Baseball says we're ready to announce an expansion process.
The one thing that is really interesting when you see a lot of these situations in other cities, sometimes there's some divisiveness between political officials or taxpayers or whatever the case might be. There's a lot of decisiveness. Here you've got fans on board, you've got politicians on board, you've got the local economy, everything hopping in the right direction, which is something that, frankly, not a lot of cities have.
No, and it speaks to Utah's culture right now. We're just doing a lot of things well. And you can have a Democratic mayor in Aaron Mendenhall, who is an amazing champion for Major League Baseball and sports, with a Republican governor in Spencer Cox. You can have the Senate President Stuart Adams and the Speaker Mike Schultz, all with their own political maybe ideology or differences at times, but they're all united on an issue like this. And the lack of dysfunction gives us a competitive advantage. Not to mention that we have business and civic leaders, a fan base that's passionate for baseball and sports. And so we're in a really good position. We're fortunate to be part of this community in this state.
How much of what you've learned from America First, the ballpark at America First Field, is somewhat of a trial for what could potentially come down the line? Yeah,
we've learned a lot. Last year we had a remarkable opening season out there, and USA Today named it one of the top 3 minor league stadiums in the country. If people haven't had a chance to visit it in downtown Daybreak, encourage them to. You'll have a phenomenal baseball experience. But I actually had a couple people from out of town with me last night, and we went out to the ballpark. And these are professional baseball people. These are people who've designed, who've built stadiums that are in that ecosystem. And they were raving about that experience out there and what's been built. And so we have a talented team that has not only built that stadium, but led the renovation at the arena in 2017. We're in design right now to renovate America First Field for Real Salt Lake and the Utah Royals. So we do have an experienced team. We also have great consultants, third-party service providers that are engaged. And it's really important to us that we build a world-class Major League ballpark.
If you haven't been down there, it's really remarkable because it's more than just a ballpark. It's an experience. And I'm sure that's something that you want to replicate in the Power District. I know that the Battery area of Atlanta was something that you took a look at. It's not just about a ballpark. It's the neighboring area. It's the infrastructure around it that makes it so appealing.
Yeah, I think that's been an evolution with sports, is that you can use these venues to anchor mixed-use development. And so people want to live close to it. They want to go shop, have restaurant experiences. Businesses want to be close to it. And so that's what's happening in downtown Daybreak. There are restaurants, there's a plaza, there's a concert stage. Last year we had 20 plus concerts out there. You know, you're getting 2,500 people out there on a summer night for a concert when the ballpark's not in use. And then you can go to Hires Big H, or Red Iguana's opening next month out there. Nice. Nomad, Pizza and Salad, Momenta Cafe, and some other announcements that will be happening soon. So it has it all.
So the fun thing about AAA baseball is that you can have some fun with it. You know, it's not as rigid. And look, I love Major League Baseball and I'm fired up. But the fact that you can have for one day a week, you can have the dirty sodas and you can have some fun with that. The partnership with Swig, and to be able to really, you know, cut back and have some fun with that. I mean, when I saw that come across, I'm like, come on, you can't get more Utah than that.
No, it's classic Utah. It's really fun. And it's also bringing a different demographic to the ballpark every Wednesday night when they wear those dirty soda jerseys. We have a lot of female fans that are embracing it, that are buying the merchandise. If I told you the sales numbers, you would be amazed. And not only in Utah, but nationally, people have bought the Dirty Sodas merchandise, shirts, hoodies, hats. And so it's a fun brand. It is uniquely Utah, and it's something that you can only do in minor league baseball.
Also, if it's an internet firestorm, and people love the Savannah Bananas, they're coming in August.
Yeah. When you stop and think about 2026 in Utah with sports, it's pretty remarkable. In 2 weeks, Inter Miami and Messi are coming to America First Field to play Real Salt Lake. The world's most famous athlete. We had over 100,000 people submit to be able to buy tickets. And so you have that phenomenon. And then, like you said, in August, we have the Savannah Bananas. And if you haven't seen them, it's a blast. It's some of the most fun I've had at a sporting event in a long time. Fortunately or unfortunately, tickets went really quick for that event too. But we have a lot on the horizon that's really fun. And the Mammoth made the playoffs, which is an awesome accomplishment for a new franchise.
When you look at acquiring something like that, you've got to have great facilities. You've got to have a great reputation, because they're not just going anywhere. And the fact you're able to bring them to the ballpark is really an impressive feat.
Yeah, we were proud of that. Our teams have done a nice job designing, building that ballpark and the experience. But last year we also hosted an event called, it was Major League Baseball's Home Run Derby X. And it was a lot of fun to be out there. And you had former players like Nick Swisher and others that participated in that. And they were signing autographs for the kids. And to have former Major League players like that on the same field as the Bees, future Major League players. And then we host youth baseball games. It's pretty fun to think about everybody who's on that field and how it kind of transcends now generations of talent, from youth to aspiring to former Major League players. And then the Savannah Bananas will just bring a lot of fun.
So you mentioned Messi, and I don't know if people truly appreciate the global icon that he truly is. You look at signature moments of sports here in the state of Utah, the NBA Finals, the Olympics, so many great things. Messi playing in Utah is going to be right up there with him in terms of the eyeballs on the state of Utah.
No question about it. He is a global phenomenon. He's the world's most popular athlete in the most popular sport in the world, and we're really excited about it. Obviously, the ticket demand was through the roof. Our players are excited about it. You have players like Xavier Gozo, who grew up in Utah, came through our academy, who's now one of the most talented young players in MLS. European Premier League teams are circling, wanting to bring him over there. And so our players, our fans, the community should be really excited about that.
You had so many years with the Utah Jazz. What has the transition been like for you and the LHM group in learning soccer and being back in the ownership world?
Yeah, it's been a learning curve. We're just about 1 year of ownership, and for the first 6 to 9 months, we took a wait-and-see approach. We wanted to learn. David Blitzer, when he bought the team, invested in the academy, and you're starting to see that pipeline of players come through now, which is really paying off. At the same time, we have some experience that we've brought to bear that I think is helping. We believe that when you build a sports organization, you build it from the inside out. And you start with things like medical and analytics and scouting, obviously culture, competitiveness. And so we tried to bring all of those lessons learned from our Jazz days to Real Salt Lake and pair it with what they have already done so well for so many years. And you look at this year's squad, and we're off to a great start. We're sitting near the top of the Western Conference. We're 4-1-1. We've already beat several teams in the West that were high playoff teams last year. And we have this blend of youth, 18 and 19-year-olds with veteran depth. We're athletic, we're talented. And so it's been really fun. And now feels like we're just starting to get enough experience underneath ourselves where we can continue to invest and build.
You mentioned Xavier Gozo. What's it like when you look at somebody who's becoming his trajectory is just through the roof in the world of soccer. Everybody in Europe's keeping an eye on him. The national team's keeping an eye on him. Everybody's recognizing the talent that he has. And to see Utah next to his name and the academy that was built here, that he is a true homegrown player, that's a remarkable step for this organization.
It's one of the best stories in Utah sports right now. And the more and more people that watch him and see his athleticism and realize that he is one of our own, he grew up here, he's charismatic, he's talented, and like you said, he's on the international watch list right now, so to speak, because of all those things. But you also take Diego Luna, who we hope makes the men's national team, represents Team USA this year with the World Cup. And several other young, talented players. It's a great group.
How much does the World Cup this year really help bring attention to soccer?
Yeah, I think it helps. I mean, those that were here 30 years ago would say that the last time America hosted the Men's World Cup, it was really the catalyst for Major League Soccer's creation. And when you think about where that league has come in 3 decades and where it sits today, it's a top 10 league in the world. Talent's coming across the sea to play here, and I think that it will only bring more attention and spotlight to the sport locally, and soccer is going to continue to really grow, and its best days in our country are still ahead of us, and this will only help with that.
There you go. Good, fun conversation with Steve Starks, and always great to sit down with him. Had a chance to work with him a lot back in the day when we were owned and operated by the Jazz, and he's just tremendous leader. Big fan of his, always will be. Good friend, and look forward to seeing what will happen down the line. And folks, I do think that there are a lot of confident people out there nationally that really feel like that Salt Lake City is on pace for an opportunity to get themselves a Major League Baseball team. And right now, you look at what the Miller Group has built with Big League Utah, I think there's a lot to be excited about because, number one, you can look at it from a standpoint of, as Steve mentioned, the ballpark site already in place, the funding already in place, the plans. Every politician is on board, whether Democrat or Republican. Everybody's on board. Public is on board. You don't see this level of commitment coming from all sides very often. It is very, very rare to see a situation like this. That, coupled with the economic foundation that's already built here in the state of Utah, a young population as well, you look at all these factors coming together, and it's pretty easy to see why Salt Lake City is a slam dunk in terms of acquiring a Major League Baseball team in upcoming expansion. And it would not surprise me somewhere in the range of 2030, 2031, this time of year, to be talking about a first pitch down in downtown Salt Lake City. All right, 1247, what you may have missed coming up next, and you'll hear from Austin Ainge at 105. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for another edition of What You May Have Missed. All brought to you by Paris RV. The Toy Hauler Month continues at Paris RV with over 200 new and used toy haulers in stock across 20 brands. They're sure to have what you're looking for. See them at any of their 4 locations or at parisrv.com. I am bound and determined to get myself one of those toy haulers. I just want to just go out in the woods and just enjoy it. I don't want to set up the tent. I don't want to do any of that. I want to enjoy the outdoors and then sleep in a nice toy hauler.
With you with like a little toy hauler. Maybe the little vans are cool too.
Yeah.
Those little traveler vans. Maybe not quite David Locke style, but.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
You start getting bamboo.
You could get the David Locke van, or you could get a 4-bedroom house in the avenues.
I know, it's very true.
Both are going to run you about the same.
The bamboo cabinets, and it's like, geez Louise.
Yes.
The struggle is real.
We're not joking, by the way.
No.
We only speak the truth. Hey, the Pacers kind of went on a downhill slide, probably because some guy named Tyrese Halliburton was not available to the team. Now, I remember having a conversation with I'm not even going to bring up their name, legendary sports figure here in the state of Utah. All right, was a part of and still is a part of the sports society here in the state of Utah since the 70s, 80s. Fixture here in the state. And they've played the game, they coached the game, they've been all over the place. And they told me once that the worst pain they've ever felt in their entire life was a recent bout that they went through with shingles. Now, you think of shingles, you think of an elderly person. No, Tyrese Halliburton just dealt with shingles. It's no joke, folks. If you've ever had it, you know what I'm talking about. Fortunately, knock on Formica or whatever this is here, I have never dealt with it, nor will I ever have to deal with it. But my goodness, Tyrese Halliburton said that he dealt with a 2-month battle with the disease. Now, remember, he shredded his Achilles, so he didn't play at all last year. So he's going through rehab, trying to fix the Achilles, and now he's dealing with shingles. He could not even go in front of a camera if I wanted to because my eye was basically closed shut. Said it was all over my face. He said I even lost part of an eyebrow over it. I don't know how you lose an eyebrow. He said I gained a lot of weight because of the medication that I had to take. And it has been one of the worst things I've ever had to deal with. Far worse than dealing with the Achilles.
Wow. I have heard that it's like pins and needles all over your skin.
Yeah.
Like I've heard it's awful. My dad had it, and fortunately, I think he caught it quickly and was able to get some medication. But like, apparently, it's like really bad.
So Halliburton said that his father got it and passed it on to him. And he would say, Halliburton said, I would tell anybody over 50 years old to get the vaccine. This has sucked. So apparently you can contract it if you're over 50 and then pass it on to somebody. I don't know, like Tyrese Halliburton certainly isn't over 50. So
is that when you're supposed to get that shot is 50?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
I would like to take the shot as soon as possible.
Yes.
So I don't get it.
I know a lot of people are angry about vaccines these days. That one I'm all in on.
I'll take it.
I'll take it.
I really don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. I want no part of that. So is it if you didn't have chicken pox as a kid, you'll get it? Like I know shingles and chicken pox are related somehow. I'm not exactly sure. I guess I could just WebMD this.
I think you can still get it even if you've had chicken pox.
Is it because you got chicken pox?
Yeah, you know what? I think that's what it is.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'm not a doctor.
I'm sure we'll have somebody firing up on Twitter here pretty soon letting us know. But anyway, if you've had shingles, apparently it is no bueno. Just ask Tyrese Halliburton, who summed it up succinctly. Yes, this has sucked. Oh, WebMD this thing?
You can get shingles if you had chicken pox. It is caused by... now we're getting a little bit too doctory. I don't want to get into this.
All right, fair enough. Bottom line, apparently go get the vaccine.
Yeah, go get the vaccine because I hear, like I said, it's supposed to be one of the more miserable things.
Yes.
Maybe not kidney stone miserable, but it's up there.
Yeah,
You've done the kidney stone. I've done the kidney stone.
Stones are no
Apparently,
fun.
Jay Stevens kidney stones doesn't bother Jay Stevens whatsoever.
He goes to the hospital, gets him zapped, and then he's like, all right, I'm fine. Get me back out on the ice. All right, 1 o'clock straight up. You're going to hear from Austin Ainge straight ahead. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is that time of year where the Jazz wrap up the regular season. No playoffs. It's been a minute, and it's locker room cleanout day. Used to be a big, big event That's kind of tapered off a little bit simply because players don't really like talking to the media. Back in the day, it used to not be an option. Now players kind of flexing a little bit, saying, I don't really want to be a part of this.
Would also help if they had their last home game their last game was at home.
At home. That certainly helps too.
It hasn't happened since 2019.
Really?
Yeah. I actually went and looked to see when the last time they played at home, and I think it was before the pandemic.
Because there's most guys will just, instead of taking the charter back home, they'll just catch a flight and just be out.
So that's another big reason, because they're not coming back to
It's a solid point. Yeah. Interesting. So you do hear from a lot of the front office, and Austin Ainge, now the president of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz, had a chance to step up to the media. Here is his end-of-season evaluation and the preview of the offseason from, again, the president of the Utah Jazz, Austin Ainge.
I just wanted to say I am very grateful, feeling very grateful for for a lot of things, but our fans this year were incredible. They showed up, and we're just very grateful, and hopefully they can see the path we're on, the excitement for the young players, and some of the optimism we have going forward. I'm very grateful for our coaching staff. They pushed at the right times. They lifted up and showed love at the right times. I thought they did a tremendous job with our group this year. Our veteran players really set an example of work ethic and also ensured our culture and positivity in the locker room maintained throughout a long year. And then our young players, of course, were humble enough to accept a lot of coaching and advice and worked really hard. And I thought pushed through some ups and downs and made some real progress that helps us as an organization. That internal growth was key for us this year to make the steps we want to make. And we feel very optimistic and hopeful about the team that we can have next year and the options we have to add to it this summer. With that, I'll take questions.
Would missing the postseason next year be a disappointment?
I'm going to focus on the process right now, Sarah. We've got a lot to prove. We've got a big summer ahead of us. Our players and our front office. Players have to get a lot better and continue to work. And our front office, we have some key free agents and a lot of other things to finish out our roster to know where we stand.
A couple of those key free agents, Nurk and Kevin, they've made it pretty publicly known that they would love to be back here. I'm wondering how much of a priority is it not only to maybe get that figured out, but also to have veterans of that caliber on this roster?
I would say that we're always balancing the on-court needs with the locker room and leadership needs. Those guys were incredible for us all year. And I thought they both played well on the court. But yeah, look, Walker, Nurk, Kevin are all free agents, and that's a lot of bigs, so we're going to need some bigs, for sure.
Where's the team's relationship with Walker right now?
Had a great meeting with Walker yesterday. He had a tough year of rehabbing, and I was so proud of him and how he showed up. He was usually here at 8 a.m. doing his rehab and on the treadmill and doing what he could with the various limitations. He showed up with a smile every day. We're big fans, but we got to figure it out this summer with the contract.
What have you seen from Ace's development, and what do you project him to be next year as you kind of look for a developmental offseason?
Yeah, Ace, I will just smile thinking about him. He just brings a smile to my face. He's just a happy person. He brings energy every day, and that made it easy to work with. And everyone on the team wanted to help Ace because he made it easy. He's got that golden retriever type personality that he's first and foremost. When we talk with Ace about the summer, it's the weight room. He's going to live in there, and he's excited about it. anytime, we talk to him a lot about strength, and anytime he can bump anyone and make a shot, he makes sure and tells me about it after the game and flexes and all that. So he knows he's going to work really hard to get stronger. And then, defense is going to be a team-wide goal for us this summer. So every guy's been, told that we're making a big leap next year defensively. No discussion. This is what's going to happen. And so that'll be a focus for his. And then I think looking at our team, again, we have a lot to figure out still, but I would say ball handling will be the other thing that a lot of guys will need to improve on in ACE also.
One of the big league-wide discussions this year, and that will be in the coming weeks, are the anti-taking policies that the league's trying to implement soon.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you think of sort of the proposed policies that have come out and how those might affect non-destination teams, how they might affect trades.
Yeah. It's been really interesting few weeks. We've had a lot of dialogue with the NBA and with other teams. The NBA, we have we're competitors, but we're also partners, and so we've had a lot of interesting discussions. There's some really good ideas and proposals out there. We're still trying to narrow those all down as a group. We had a good general managers meeting, and then there's been countless calls and texts and spreadsheets sent back and forth with things between teams. I'm optimistic that we'll, the NBA is pushing us in the right direction, and that we'll have a solution that, we're looking at short-term and long-term solutions, and I'm optimistic with some of the proposals.
With Cody and Bryce and Flip and Ace and now another lottery pick potentially coming in, how do they match with an older group that is ready to win right now? And can you have two timelines? Do you have a glut of young players?
It's a great question. There are, we have 18-man rosters now, and not every young player may get to play. It's going to be a competition for minutes, but I believe a lot of those young guys have proven that they can play in the NBA this year. And they've, this year we were able to let them play through some ups and downs, and a lot of them have found themselves in the NBA and where they can function. And so we're optimistic that a lot of them can contribute to winning teams.
Do you feel like you have the personnel on this roster right now to maximize a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr.? Do you want to bring somebody in to play off of him? And how do you feel about his role right now?
I think we have a lot of good players that Jaren can play with and that he can help. And he's such a versatile, easy guy. He can defend and shoot and pass, and I think he fits a lot of teams, which is a lot of his value. He's a really, really good player, but he can play with a lot of different types of players as well. I think we have a lot to work with. I think Jaren has the tools he needs to have a great year next year.
Do you know yet when the league is doing the coin flip?
I believe it's the 20th, or give or take a day. The league didn't tell me that. Someone internally said that, and I haven't verified it, but I think that's more or less where it's at.
How would you characterize kind of how you guys are going to approach the offseason and free agency and trying to maybe add to the team? Aggressive? Careful?
Those lines are difficult, right? It usually depends on opportunity, Sarah, but I would say that we are, we made a big move with Jaren, and that, we started this season with potentially a lot of cap space this summer, and now Jaren was kind of our big move, and so I would say we'll always be aggressive, looking to improve the team, but unless amazing opportunities present themselves, we don't have tons of cap space that way, right? It'll be more additive players.
Along those lines, could you see signing maybe some of the third-year guys to earlier extensions than you did Walker?
We'll look at all that stuff, yeah. We'll try to be strategic, but it always depends on the values met.
How are you viewing this year's draft and where you guys are positioned if you end up at the top 8 spot?
I think it's a very good draft. We'll see what kind of luck we have and where we end up. But there's a lot of ways to add to our team, and the draft is one very important one, but it's not the only avenue.
Do you think that the season is too long?
You're asking me on 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's an interesting thing to discussion points. I'm not aware of any serious discussions on that topic right now. I think we've had a very successful league with huge interest for 50 years with this amount of games, so I think it's working pretty well.
Between Keontae's jump and Lowry's jump, and were you surprised at maybe how quickly the team got moving and winning games earlier this year?
Yeah, I would say maybe a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we had this tremendous summer. These young guys worked really hard. We felt very proud of the work they put in, and but you never. I personally always start with kind of lower expectations and like to be surprised, and so we saw a lot of growth in the summer, but you never really know how it applies into the games, and yeah, we were very happy with the big jump Keontae made, and had a good talk with him in an exit meeting yesterday, and I think that he even has more to go. I think there's more steps he can take. Obviously, no one peaks at 22, so we think he has even more to grow.
There are a lot of people who think, 4 years, the rebuild's over, you don't have a draft pick next year, can't find yourself in the same situation you have been. How do you view where you are in this rebuild and kind of the trajectory of the team?
Yeah, I don't like to set, exact expectations, because sometimes they can add pressure, but sometimes they can be limiting. So I want the guys to focus on the process, but I do feel like we can make a good leap next year. But it'll depend how everyone comes together, but our guys are really motivated. Lowry and Jaren are great leaders and great guys, and they're really excited to take kind of that mantle this summer to make sure everyone comes together and we win next year. They're really motivated to be a part of something like that, and I'm really excited for them.
We often talk about culture, but it's also the balance of on-court needs and leadership. What would you say are the non-negotiables when it comes to building out this roster?
There's a lot. I mean, we want guys that aren't about themselves, that are about the group, that will play winning basketball and accept coaching and play the right way and act the right way would be the shortest way to say it. And I feel like we have a very good base of that. It'll be it's a big summer project to finish out this team in a way that we can add on both of those on and off the court.
You mentioned that you don't want to add pressure expectations, whether or not you want to. There will be more scrutiny, probably more eyes, more expectations from the outside. How much do you think that you're going to learn about the guys under kind of a different lens?
Yeah, we're so excited for some expectations. We know. I mean, we always feel it, right? The fans that I mentioned, they're so awesome, and we feel so much responsibility to them, and so we've always had, from Ryan and Ashley on down, we know that we have a special place, and we want to put a great product out for our fans, a team they can be proud of. So we know that we need to make some progress, and we think we have some pieces to do so. But yeah, it'll be a different feel, and the players know it, and they're very excited for that opportunity as well.
between Bez, Hayden, and Anderson Garcia, it seems like maybe you guys were mining for perimeter defensive players.
Yeah.
Do you think that's accurate, and is that an area you're going to be focused on this summer?
Yeah, I think it's an area of need, potentially, right? We'll see how things go in the draft and other things, but for sure it was intentional.
Where do John and Spee kind of equal into what the future plans are?
They are good players and good leaders and set a great example and can both defend. And so they're right in there. We need guys like them. We need them. So we're excited to have them in our program.
How did you see Will continue to grow as a head coach, and just how did your relationship with him get stronger throughout the year?
Will is a really talented coach. He was an amazing partner this year. We talk, I don't know how many times every day, and it's been just a joy to go through this with him. This is a tough year, and it could have been with all of our injuries and everything. It could have been. It would have been a lot harder if I didn't have Bill to go through it with. So he's a great partner, and I'm very, very glad that we have him on our side and leading our program. I thought he did a great job of getting really hard on the guys when things weren't going how he wanted, and then having meetings where he shared jokes and taught stories and current events and asked guys how they knew what was going on in Iran or in these types of things. Will has a great feel for the guys and what they need, and I'm very glad we have him.
Do you think that you're going to see a different side of him next year?
I think the situation requires different behaviors and tactics, and so I trust Will have the feel and figure out which buttons he needs to push at different times. But he will be Will.
There you go. That is Austin Ainge, president of the Utah Jazz. You heard about his relationship with Will Hardy. You'll hear from Will Hardy coming up next. And then we'll switch gears, talk a little hockey with Jay Stevens at 2:05 because we got to get the Mammoth out of this rut. And who better than the good luck charm, Jay Stevens? When Jay comes on the show, Mammoth wins. So it's that simple. All right. So we will chat with him coming up at 2:05. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This guy actually has friends. Nice. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You ready to get some of that Bar W beef? Well, we will be down on remote. Now, not in Nephi, mind you. No, we will be at a pop-up location, the Cal Ranch store in Spanish Fork, 950 North Main Street. We'll be down there on Wednesday, and it's your chance to load up on some Bar W beef. Great opportunity. Those pop-up events are awesome. So if you can't get down to Nephi, load up.
If I send you with some cash.
I got you.
Okay. All right.
I got you.
Okay. Let's talk afterwards.
We'll get you squared away.
I'm going to send you with some cash so I can load up.
The
deal is unbelievable.
And the problem is, too, look, the savings are great. The beef selection is awesome, but
next to none.
It goes by quick. So I would suggest we're going to be there from 12 to 3. I would suggest you be there as close to 12 as you possibly can. Because
I remember actually in the break, I tried to talk to you guys about it, about setting some aside from me. Like, sorry, it's gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, it's like 1 o'clock. What do you mean?
Yeah. It goes fast. Get those sirloins, you get those ribeyes, even the ground beef goes by quick. So, yeah, you got to get in there quick. Bar W Beef, again, the pop-up location, Cal Ranch store, coming up Wednesday in Spanish Fork, 950 North Main Street. All right, you heard from Austin Ainge, and he talked about his relationship with Will Hardy, how that's developed over the last year. Well, let's hear from the head coach himself. Here is Will Hardy.
Your perspective, successful season, and did you accomplish most of the things you wanted to, more than you wanted to?
Yeah, I think it was for sure a successful year for our group. I think we have a much better understanding now of who we are as a group in this moment. We have a better understanding now of some of our, really all of our players, in particular the young players. I think when we say young players, we're generally talking about the guys on their rookie scale contracts. I think we saw individual improvement from everybody. I think it helps us, again, have a better understanding of where we are as we look towards the future now. But also very proud of the way the team conducted themselves every day. They came to work. They took feedback. They really gelled as a group. Like, you guys were around our team a lot. We had an incredible spirit of the group this year. So overall, I thought it was certainly a success.
A lot of the guys, when we talk to them, are not secretive about the fact that they're like, yeah, we can make the playoffs next year. Like, that's the goal that they're looking at. I mean, Lowry's chomping at the bit to just get there one time, you know.
Right.
Do you think that this roster is capable of making it to the postseason in the Western Conference?
Well, I mean, we don't know what that roster is going to be opening day next year.
If it was as constructed.
I don't know. I really don't. We've, Jaren played 2 games with us. We didn't have Walker during that time. There's a lot of circumstances that go into projecting win totals in playoffs or not. I think certainly it'll be great to have expectations. I think it'll be great to be able to put the group out there and see where we stack up. I think we all want to improve. I think we're very capable of improving and taking a step forward. How big that step is, I don't know yet. There's so many factors that are not in our control as it relates to everybody else when you start stacking yourselves up. But I'm glad the guys are excited, though. Like, I want them to have that mindset as they go into their summer work. Goals, things in the distance to look at and to kind of hunt, I think is good for everybody's competitive spirit.
When we talk to them, especially the young guys that we're talking about, often when we ask them kind of in exit interview settings what they want to work on this summer, the general answer from all of them is everything. They want to work on everything. We talked to you about that before. So maybe Ace, Keontae, where are the biggest kind of areas for them to hone in on?
Ace's body is first and foremost. We talked a little bit yesterday about, with young players, the biggest gap you're trying to bridge early is the physical one. Ace is an incredible athlete. He's also young. And so I think for him to try to take this offseason and really dig into his body is very important. And then I think he and Keontae, it's going to be about your individual defense. We're going to have to take a huge step in that area, and before a collective group can take a step forward on the defensive side, every person has to take a step forward. That means your one-on-one defense, that means your understanding of scheme, that means your ability to play at a disadvantage, play 1 versus 2 and make choices. Personnel comes into effect a lot, but using the word expectation that you asked about earlier, I have a high expectation for those 2 in their offseason. You have to do the work, and you can say that you want certain things. You can say, I have expectations next year of X, Y, and Z, and those things are all great to say, but those 2, the rest of our locker room, myself, our coaching staff, like, we all have work to do this summer, and that way when we get back together as a team, you know, you get to sort of show off some of the things that you worked on, and it also shows the rest of the group that you're willing to do the things necessary to improve. So I have high expectations for their work this summer.
With Jaren only playing 2 games, how clear are you on his role next year, and what have those discussions been like between you and him with envisioning that next year?
I think the discussions have been frequent and will continue to be frequent. In this moment, the clarity is not great. I have plenty of ideas. I have plenty of concepts that I think will be very good for him, but I think any coach would tell you it all looks good on the board. Like, we're all really smart in a meeting, but you got to get the guys on the floor, and you got to let them show you a little bit too, like what's possible. I think one thing that we have done very well as an organization, and I want to give our coaching staff credit, is that we have not put players in a box here. We have tried to really explore the depth of possibility with all of our players, and Jaren's no different. He has, you know, he has enough of a career behind him that he has a reputation, and so we all envision one thing. But I'd like to see if there's more. I think that's always our vision as a staff is, you know, you don't want to make the team a laboratory, but you do need to test certain things to see what's possible, because these guys are, the talent level in our league has never been higher. And I just think there's so much context to basketball in particular in terms of style of play and who your teammates are and what your role is and what that allows you to show. I mean, we saw that this year with our young players. As they got more opportunity and they got sort of moved up the pecking order in a game, you saw some things that maybe you hadn't seen before. So Jaren will be no different.
Between Walker and Jaren, if Walker's back, you seem like you have good rim deterrence. Mm-hmm. Where is that as a starting spot for the defense next season? Huge.
I think protecting the rim and owning the backboard, you know, is a really good place to start. The possession battle in our league is extremely important. You see different ways to attack that. There's forcing turnovers, and then there's the rebounding margin. And I think that if those two guys are together, hopefully we can do a good job of both, but it's not going to just be them. We've seen and learned a lot about it takes an entire team to protect the rim. It takes a collective mindset to protect the rim, and it takes a lot of relentlessness to rebound in our league now. The crashing is going up from your opponents, and you know, with the amount of threes that are shot, the variety of bounce is up. So it's going to take the whole group, but those two would be a good starting point.
We talked a lot this year about how your message to the group last year was that no one's going to come in and save them. Mm-hmm. Is it a similar message this year? Have you changed the message for them heading into the offseason?
No. No, I have not changed it. Yes, the message is the same. We have to operate every day like this is it. And that's the mindset. And until or if something changes, that's a different story. But I want all of our players to envision that next year is a breakout year for them. You know, every good player, every great player in our league has had a quote-unquote breakout season. Happens at different points for different people, but I would like for all of our players to be thinking that it could be them. I felt like going back to last summer, it was what drove Keontae. And the other guys worked just as hard. It's not that Keontae worked harder than anybody else, but he ended up having, you know, a little bit of a mini breakout season for himself. And it's because of the work he put in. So I expect that from everybody this summer.
You guys, like, Nurk and Kevin, do you do any advocating to maybe bring them back or to have veterans of that caliber on the roster?
Yeah, I think it's more nuanced than just advocating. I think you have to give real, honest perspective on what people bring to the group. You talk about the things that they added in our locker room, on the floor, away from the court, the way they handled the other veterans, the way they handled the young players, because the decisions aren't just as simple as like, we love Kevin and we love Nurk. If it was that simple, man, it would be a lot easier to deal with the ebbs and flows of roster movement in this league. You know, especially as a coach, like you get attached to these guys, like you do. We're in it together. We're with them every day. You build real relationships. You know, I've been fortunate to coach a bunch of guys who you kind of have two layers of the relationship. You've got the coach-player one, and then you've got the human-to-human one. And so, yeah, I think you sort of advocate for all the guys in different ways. But it's really just about making sure we understand all of the factors. Like, here are all the things they bring as we look to put together the best group that we can. You know, there are a lot of different ways to do it, but yeah, I'm a big fan of those two guys. I think what they did for our group this year, it can't be measured, but if you've been around our team, you definitely feel it every day.
How did Keontae's breakout that you mentioned, I guess, kind of open up things for the roster and then change the trajectory as far as the willingness to like kind of move out of this phase that you guys have been in for a few years?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it was more, it gave us the feeling of we have a really good young player in our program. I don't know if Keontae is, you know, the reason why we did anything. I think it was more a lot of excitement for us that we were developing somebody internally who can really help us going forward. I do think Keontae, and the way that he plays, he can play with a lot of different people, which is also exciting as a coach. But I wouldn't say that, you know, because of Keontae's breakout year is why we did X, Y, or Z.
One of the things that I asked Keontae was if he thought that we were going to see a different side of you next year. And without skipping a beat, he was like, oh yeah. Because I think that, you know, with a healthy roster and with the additions to the roster and what could potentially be possible, I think that he sees it as you wanting to win just as much as everyone else, and that he'll see kind of more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there's truth to that?
I mean, I've been here 4 years. Do you guys not think that you've seen all sides of me at this point?
I don't.
No? Well, yeah, I'm not sure if the dosage may be different on certain things, but I feel like I've been pretty open and honest with the team and with you guys throughout my time here. You know, Keontae's probably nervous, but that would be appropriate.
Good.
Yeah.
There you go. By the way, props to Sarah Todd. Not messing around.
No.
Austin Ainge, like, I'm on 4 hours of sleep. She's like, so am I.
I am too.
And she probably flew back commercial, whereas Austin was probably on a charter. So, yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Props to Sarah. Not putting up with that nonsense. No, I'm only joking about the nonsense. But, you know, that was it's interesting when you talk to some of these guys after a season. Sometimes it's the season's over. Sometimes guys are mad. Sometimes they're angry. Sometimes they're relieved. There's always a wide range of emotions from players and coaches after the season comes to an end. It is weird, though, and it's a weird vibe. And I'll even just use myself as a broadcaster and look, the college season's way, way shorter than the NBA. But you go. And I was just telling Maddie this, our social media wizard there in the back, like you spend all year from football to basketball, so essentially from late August to middle of March. So kind of roughly the same time as an NBA season, although the NBA's got 82 and, college football and basketball, you're looking at maybe combined 50 games. But everything is about the next broadcast. Everything's about the next prep. Everything's about you go. And then all of a sudden it's like you ram your car going 60 miles an hour into a concrete barricade. It just, bam, stops. And you're like, whoa, what? Like this last weekend. First weekend in forever where I'm like, I don't know, what am I supposed to be doing with myself here? Like, I guess some yard work, I guess,
Even that feels a little out of place. Doesn't feel like I should.
Go to Bed Bath & Beyond if we have time.
We got time. What are you wearing?
I just it's a weird vibe. So I can't imagine. So times that by 1,000 if you're an NBA coach or an NBA player, where your life is all about prep, your life is all about practice, your life is all about individual games, and then it just stops. And if you're a player, a lot of guys probably stayed put in LA, or they may have caught a plane to go to Cabo, or who knows, wherever they went. But I think a lot of these players are like, all right, we're good. We're done here. And then there's a lot of others that are just like, I don't know how to proceed here. So it's a lot. It's a really interesting conundrum that a lot of guys get into where they're just not exactly sure how to go forward. And I think even though you see Will Hardy, he's in year 4 of being in the NBA, but I'm sure this offseason is going to feel very, very different than other offseasons he's had in the past. All right, KSL, Sports Zone, and Beehive Mills, honoring people that impact youth sports in our communities. Nominate the youth sports volunteer for the Beehive Mills Hero of the Week at KSLSports.com/contest. Then listen every Thursday afternoon as JJ and Alex will announce the winner. It's the Beehive Mills Hero of the Week right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, make sure to tune in all day on Wednesday. Well, you should be listening every day, but in particular on Wednesday, because we got tickets to give away. This week, win a pair of Brit Floyd, the Pink Floyd tribute band. Tickets for June 6th at 7:30 at the Maverick Center. If you want to be part of that, all you have to do is be caller number 12 when we ask you, not now, on Wednesday, for your chance to win tickets. That's tax day, too, so make sure to get your house in order on the 15th. No bueno.
We'll remind you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The Masters was spectacular. Coming down the stretch, you got a ton of drama. And when you got Scotty and Rory going toe-to-toe, and a couple other guys too, but when you saw that putt on 17 from Scotty, you thought it was going down, right?
Yeah.
We all did.
Yes, absolutely.
We absolutely did. That was perfect speed. Looked like the line was perfect. We were that close to coming away from a potential playoff between Scotty and Rory, and you couldn't ask for a better matchup in a playoff.
It was such an up and down tournament as far as the leaderboard kept changing.
Yes.
You had Rory was leading at one point. Justin Rose was leading at one point. You had Cameron Young leading at one point. Scheffler wasn't ever leading, I don't believe, but he was right there.
Yeah.
I mean, if he birdied 18 and got to 12 under, that probably puts a little extra pressure on Rory, who sent it off to the right on 18. Apparently, he ended up a little bit better. I was very surprised he was able to get it to the bunker from where he was at.
I know.
But it's pretty impressive. So, yeah.
It was fun, and that's the thing. All you want is drama on a Sunday, and you certainly got that. And Rory now back-to-back championships. I'm curious to know, next time we chat with Brian and Bob, if the vibe is that Rory's going to just tank it the rest of the year. Because that's what he did last year. Won the Masters and then just...
I hope not. Go out there and try to insert yourself and be dominant, like Tiger Woods dominant.
And I think that
I love seeing somebody like that.
And I bet I don't know if you'll see that dominance level, but I think you'll see a better Rory the rest of the way, just because.
Well, I honestly thought he was actually going to, because at one point, and he ended up when he was 12 under, and the next closest was 600. I'm like, he's running away.
Oh yeah.
That was on Friday, I think it was. Like, he's going to run away and win this thing going away, like Tiger Woods style. I thought.
Nope.
No.
But hey, I'm glad, because I didn't want to see Sunday golf with some guy leading by 7 strokes on the final 9 holes. So I think you're going to see a Rory that's going to finish the year, or I guess the year just started, but continue throughout the season much better than what we saw last year. I think, look, you get to a certain point in your life where you accomplish something big, and Rory last year at the Masters got the career Grand Slam, and there was a certain element of like, whew, I did it. Well, now what am I going to do with my life? And you can go one of two ways. You can rip off a bunch of wins because the pressure's off you, or you just be like, I'm gonna enjoy this a little bit.
Pretty cool, by the way, that he had his mom and dad there. He didn't last year, because I think there was a feeling that they were constantly putting the pressure on him to do that. So, and the fact that he was able to go win it in front of his parents was actually pretty cool.
But I think you'll see much better golf from Rory the rest of the season as opposed to what we saw last year.
I'd agree.
Look, Scotty Scheffler's a machine. I know that there's not the huge personalities that we saw back in the day with Tiger and Phil, but I do think from a talent level, there's some good golf out there.
There's some good golf.
Is it boring golf?
Even my guy, Xander Schauffele, who I absolutely love his golf game, but he's boring.
Yeah, they're all kind of like Rory.
Boring.
When Rory's the most exciting guy out there.
There's just got to be some personality, and it's not there. And Bryson, I'm sorry, even he tries to give you personality, he's a bonehead. Like, there is nothing interesting about him. And his 3D printed 5 wood that he's got, apparently that stock took a hit.
Yeah.
I'm just like there's just nothing interesting about him. Like, they're just not that golfer. Even when Brooks Koepka was winning, he was boring. There's nobody interesting. There's just not.
I like how Scotty tried to be like the bad guy for a little bit with the media, and it's like, that's a stupid question. Like, okay, Scotty, you're not that guy. Like,
no, you're not.
We know you want to be that, but you want to inject a little bit of personality. Your PR person said, why don't you snap at a reporter a little bit? That'll get you out there.
Getting arrested isn't enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Scotty, now we need something else from you.
Okay, the arrest thing didn't really stick that much, so let's try to snap at a reporter. And it's just like, that's a stupid question. Next question. Like, okay, no, you're trying too hard. That's not genuine. Deep down, he's like, I need to apologize to this guy afterwards.
I'm sorry.
My PR guy made me do that. It was actually a really well-stated question. All right, 2:01, coming up, final hour of the program. Let's talk Mammoth. Where's your concern level with this Mammoth team? Hey, look, you made the playoffs. You won 5 in a row. Things were looking great. Big win over Edmonton, a statement win, and then things have kind of fallen off a bit. Are you carrying any momentum into the postseason? Jay Stevens will break that down for us next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Breaking down the teams you're passionate about. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We got some Utah Mammoth to break down. Jay Stevens, kind enough to join us. All right, Jay, by the way, host of the Utah Puck Report, KSLSports.com, and overall good dude. You wish you were half the man that Jay Stevens. He'll fight fire, stop a puck, and kick your butt, all in the same motion. You doing all right, Jay? Everything good in your world?
I'm doing great. Last night was a little rough.
All right.
Watching that, but other than that, great.
So here's the thing. You are the good luck charm. Every time you come on, something good happens with the Utah Mammoth. And we didn't get you on at the end of last week, and they lost 2 in a row. So we've got to fix that. But look, you knew there was going to be a little bit of an emotional hangover after winning 5 in a row, that statement against Edmonton, clinching your spot in the playoffs. They were going to come back down to earth a little bit. But are you concerned with what you saw over the weekend?
Yes and no. I mean, and I get it. It's super frustrating as a fan to watch your team and they rally off 5 in a row, and you think they're unstoppable going into playoffs, and then a couple things happen. And, Carolina, I really did not expect Utah to get past Carolina. Carolina's just playing really hot. Calgary is dangerous just because they're eliminated. They have a bunch of guys playing for jobs, and they have pride, especially when they're at home, and maybe even wanted to prove a little bit to Mackenzie Weegar, who, is now at Utah Mammoth. So there's a whole lot of things going on over there that aren't going on with Utah Mammoth. Utah Mammoth, you're right. They had an emotional letdown. You would have expected them to play better. So, yeah, I got a little worried with some of the sloppiness more than anything.
Yeah.
Calgary did a really good job at clogging up the middle and taking time and space from each player. And that's exactly what you're going to see when you get in the playoffs. So I thought Utah would be a little bit more ready for that, but they weren't. And you saw the miscues. Obviously the one with Vanacek behind the net is horrible, but he did that later in the game too. We also had defenseman pass right out. Like Vanacek's first save was a horrible turnover right to the front of the net. So there were just some really weird just letdowns last night that didn't look like your playoff-bound Utah Mammoth, and I hope they shake that off and they're ready for Winnipeg.
So, yeah, you've got Winnipeg coming up, and so let's talk about obviously the Mammoth are in the postseason, but where they stack up in that postseason is still very much in play. Just kind of work us through the situation and some of the scenarios that are out there for Utah.
Yeah, it gets really crazy right now, right? Like Utah has to win. I think the magic right now is they need at least 3 more points in the next 2 games to keep that wild card 1 spot. You've had the LA Kings to have had some kind of a resurgence, plus they have a game in hand. They've only played 79 games, so they have 3 games left. They currently stand at 87 points. So let's say LA wins all 3 games, and that gives them 93 points. So Utah would be tied with them if they only picked up 3 points, but then they have the tiebreak for the head-to-head. But you got to look – so you would expect Utah to get 4 points. As long as they win the next 2 games, they keep wild card 1, everything's fine. Nashville's kind of sneaking up too. They're at 86, but they only have 2 games left. So Utah really can do themselves a favor if they pick up at least 3 points and LA drops a game out of their next 3 games. Otherwise, it gets really confusing. And you still got Anaheim and Edmonton and Vegas just clogging up that Pacific top 3 spots. And I think most Utah fans are hoping that it's Anaheim. Utah's lined up really well against Anaheim. If they take first place in the Pacific, Utah keeps that number 1 wild card spot. That would be the matchup. But as it stands right now, Utah wild card 1, Vegas Golden Knights are first in the Pacific, so that's who they play. If Utah falls off, it ends up in that wild card 2 spot. They get the Avalanche, who, most people think are just going to walk right to the Stanley Cup. You might as well just hand it to them right now.
Yeah, so I'd say that's motivation right there. You want to avoid Colorado as long as you possibly can. But let's stay, for the sake of argument, Utah holds on to that number 1 spot. You mentioned Anaheim. What are other teams that, if you look at whether it's Vegas, whether it's Edmonton, Anaheim, who would you prefer to see in that first round out of those realistic chances if you hold on to that 1 spot?
For me, it's Vegas. I know that Utah has done a really good job, and we in the media have talked a lot about how Utah's done a good job against Anaheim all year, but they've also had really good success against Vegas. And Vegas is also one of those teams that for some reason struggles to score goals once they get to the championship game or once they even make to the playoffs. They're one of the most potent teams. Even like you go back, they got 8 years of history, and they were really good, and then they make the playoffs, and all of a sudden they'd stop scoring goals. And that's the kind of team you want to play against, is a team that can't figure themselves out, right? So for me, yes, Utah has done really well against Anaheim, but I think they line up and they match up better against Vegas. I think the high power, the fastness of the Utah offense, when they get that speed going and you get all that, and they're coordinated, not like what you saw last night, but what you saw during that 5-game winning streak, when you see them coordinated, when you see the offense working and they're putting up, between 4 and 7 goals a game, they're going to take it to an aging Vegas team that isn't what they were, and they've held on, which is crazy. They've held on to some of those players like Mark Stone, who's still putting up good numbers and is still an amazing player, but that's who they're counting on to carry them through. And he's just not the same Mark Stone. Still a great player and one of the best. He'll be in the Hall of Fame. But when you look at Anaheim, I just think that they're young and fast. Edmonton has just been kryptonite for Utah. I know Utah got that win, but for me, it's Vegas. I'm completely fine with that matchup.
And you probably would prefer no Edmonton in the first round too.
Yeah, Edmonton is just scary, and they're going to get Draisaitl back. And, as cool as it was to see Utah beat Edmonton in overtime, to finally beat them for the first time in franchise history, you got to have an asterisk by it that says, hey, wait, Leon Draisaitl, who's the second leading scorer, usually in the NHL, because he's either setting up McDavid or he's getting set up by McDavid. And he's also a phenomenal player. He can do it on his own. But when you pair him up with McDavid, that is a scary team that has advanced to the Stanley Cup championship the last 2 years. They're one goal at one point away from winning the cup. So, yeah, Edmonton to me is a team. I think they're a dark horse. I think they're in the Pacific. I think they can get through. I think they're the team that matches up best against Colorado to get out of the West. But, yeah, they're just scary. And when you get Draisaitl back, Utah just would rather not see them in that first round. But on the same token, one of the things we were talking about with last night is you got to remember, you didn't have Barrett Hayton. McBain didn't play. Obviously, Veggie didn't play. So there were a lot of guys out of the lineup last night that typically would have helped, or at least a couple. McBain's one of the hearts and souls of the Utah Mammoths. So Utah's also going to be better when they get those players back. But yeah, Edmonton's a no for me. If I got to pick, I would pick Vegas or even Anaheim, and I'd love to see Edmonton just not play Utah again this year.
We look at the NBA that we've covered forever here, and a lot of people talk about, and we've seen it up close and in person, when the playoffs roll around, the level of physicality goes through the roof. The level of intensity goes through the roof. There's no taking plays off. There's no load management. There's none of that nonsense. And also, refs swallow their whistle a little bit more in the postseason. Are those things all true when it comes to the NHL?
Yeah, 100%. You're going to see a different officiating, and it gets a little frustrating during the first round of the playoffs. A lot of fans, it doesn't matter how long you've been watching the game, you don't know how it's going to be called once the playoffs start. But you do know the refs seem to have a lot harder time finding their whistle and raising that arm to call penalties. They let a lot more go. There's a lot more physicality. There's no room and space or time and space. You're going to see a lot more physicality let go. A lot of times they'll still get the retaliation if it's like a direct punch to the face, but a lot of cross checks, some hooking. It's going to be a lot different. So if you're a newer fan and you haven't seen it, just be ready to not understand what all the calls are or why that thing didn't get called that you just saw get called all year. But also, if you're a new fan, know that this is how the NHL hooks you. If you've never seen NHL playoffs before, there's nothing else like it. The intensity, the physicality, the emotional response you're going to get to these games is going to be something like you've never experienced before. Even players that didn't even care about the NHL and Utah before would watch the playoffs and be like, man, this is amazing. So you're in for a ride. It's a little bit different than the regular season, but it's so much fun. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see the Utah Mammoths in their first ever playoff appearance. Should
we all be growing a beard? Is there a beard growing situation going on with the Mammoth as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, once the regular season is over, you do not shave until you lose, until you're out of the playoffs. And if you're, you got to say it, if you're a real true fan, time to not shave that beard. Now, if you have, if you're a firefighter and you got to shave so that your mask will seal, then that's okay. But for everybody else, you got to grow that beard and show your support.
So if you're not out there saving lives in houses, then you need to grow the beard.
I mean, it just makes sense to me. So I might be a little bit biased, but it makes sense to me that we all grow beards. I still have a few weeks off of work with my hip, so I'm growing a beard. And let's do it. Let's support the mammoth.
Let's go. Hey Lloyd, how well's your beard growing ability?
Yeah, it's spotty.
Yeah, mine is too.
I can grow a pretty good goatee, but the whole full beard, nah.
And that's right. Like goatee, that doesn't count. It's got to be full.
Yeah, it's a little too European.
You got to go full beard, right?
Yeah, we got to see the full beard. But I'm in complete support of however much of a beard you guys can grow. I'm there with you. I'm going to start coming in. We can start taking daily or every other day pictures to see how it's going. But the other fun part of this, when you're watching these kids in the NHL, because a lot of these teams have 18 and 19-year-olds on the team, and they're going to start growing a beard, and you're not going to know. You're not going to be able to tell. So that's also a lot of fun.
They're like, I thought you'd be growing a beard. Like, I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can here. All right. So, again, you look at what the Mammoth have done up until that game where they clinched, and then you see a little bit of the drop-off. If there's one area that's concerned you the most, you talked about a little bit of sloppy play. Does that also include the goaltending as well?
Yeah, 100%. And I will tell you, I watch Veggie very closely. And in that 5-game win streak, I saw some things out of Veggie that I've been wanting to see for the past 2 seasons out of the Utah Mammoth. And that was his compete during what goalies call, we call it a battle drill. So when he takes that first shot, it's the amount of scramble and how long can he stay up and on his knees or in the up stance and battle and get into different positioning. And you see it more with Vanacek than you see it with Veggie. He's typically a really good first save goalie, and then he's got some good second save moves, but he doesn't scramble as well. Well, in that last 5-game series, the level of battle I saw out of him is something I hadn't seen out of him outside of practices. So I was excited to see that. I think Veggie is getting to where we want him to be. We saw that huge glove save on the road. I can't remember who that was against, but he had a huge glove save where his battle and his compete level is raised. I think we're starting to see the Veggie that can take us through. The communication has to be better. It was so weird to see that. And then you saw Bear yelling at them from the bench. That just tells you that, and Bear doesn't yell during games. He yells a lot during practice, but he doesn't yell during games. So that just told you how frustrating it was and how weird it was to see the lack of communication. And Bear's interview after, he said, yeah, we weren't communicating. We were disconnected. You can't blame it on anything else except for not being prepared. So I think last night's a throwaway. I think you're going to see them have that same communication they had. Just keep thinking back to that 5-game win streak when everything was going great. And let's hope that that's the team we see tomorrow night against Winnipeg. And then on the 16th against the Blues, they pick up 4 points, keep that wild card 1, and then just keep building every game.
So as we come down the stretch, you got these games remaining here for Utah, but you're also going up against teams that may not be at full strength or may be kind of packing it in and thinking about Cancun already. Is there a situation where you get down late in games where teams that have either made the playoffs and know what their seedings are will start to rest guys, or teams that aren't playing particularly well will just kind of rest guys and let them coast off into the sunset? We're all just used to NBA mode where we see this over and over. Does that translate to the NHL?
Not really. I mean, it's starting to pop up. It's nothing like what you're going to see in the NHL, though, or in the NBA. The NHL doesn't really buy into that, and you're going to have a hard time telling an NHL player he's missing a game.
I love it.
To rest or whatever. NHL players want to play every game. They really take the brotherhood and the commitment to that brotherhood seriously. They feel like they owe it to each other on the team to be there every game, to be at their best. You might see goalies start to get rested. You might see a team, especially a team that's already got a spot, you might see them play some of their rookies a little bit more or pull up a goalie from the East Coast League and see how he can do in a game. So, and then in those games, against St. Louis, who's already been eliminated, they're going to pull up some guys, and they're going to take a look at them, and they're going to put them in against Utah to see how they do. So, yeah, those teams that are eliminated, you're going to see some guys fighting for jobs next year, maybe literally fighting for jobs. And Utah has to know that, stay out of that garbage play that can happen. But yeah, you're gonna see it, and you might see it from Utah too. They already pulled up Villalta, who's one of the best guys you'll ever interview, and he's just so much fun, and he's just a surge of positive energy around that guy. So you might see him get a game. It just depends on how comfortable Utah feels. They'll probably be watching what happens with LA tonight, and that might determine which goalie starts tomorrow night. But you see a little bit of it, but not like the NBA.
There's a thought in the NBA and even college basketball too, where once you get your lineup set and your rotation set, you don't mess with it when you go into the playoffs or postseason play. How fluid can coaches be with altering their lines going into the playoffs, or is that something that you want to have cemented as much as possible?
This is where the coaches really make their money. I mean, obviously it's a lot about practices, but a lot of times, especially as you're going deeper into the playoffs, you'll see coaches shorten their bench. You'll only see line 1 and 2, and then maybe sometimes line 3, and they're constantly watching matchups. And if they see something where they're like, hey, if we move Carconi from the third line to the second line instead of Cooley or whatever, just throwing this out there, like if they see something that guy might work better on that line against the line they keep getting matched up against, especially the first 2 games on the road where you're not getting a last change, you might see the line start to change. You might start to see – I see more of like a Lawson Krause getting used a little bit more. And once we get McBain back, you'll see him start to get a little bit more of that an extra shift here or there, go out with another line, because Lawson Krause has that ability to just jump in another line, use his body. Same with McBain. And I think Utah's secret weapon over the last 10 games has been Alex Kerfoot.
Yes.
So you might see him get shifted in different lines and play with different players, just so that he's not constantly matched up against whoever the other coach feels like cancels him out. So that's where coaches really earn their money. They start messing around with their lines. Whatever line you see right now, it's not set in stone. There's a lot of changing during the game, during a period. It changes quite a bit.
Hey, here's the dumb question of the interview, and that's assuming that we haven't already given you 2 of those already. How often are teams successful when they essentially pull a goalie in a delayed penalty and try to get an extra shooter out on the ice?
Oh, I looked that up just the other day. It was around 18% on the delayed penalty, and then it's just above 20% when they pull the goalie looking for the extra goal when they're down a goal. So, it's a Hail Mary for sure, but sometimes it works.
So that wasn't an entirely dumb question then. You've done some research on this.
Yeah, it comes up, and I actually searched it because it happened in the Frozen Four games in Vegas last week. So, yeah, it's just one of those things that if you can really take advantage of that delayed penalty, the ref sit there getting his arms getting all tired from being up that long. You got to get a good shoulder workout in before, do some yoga. And some teams can stretch that out for 2 or 3 minutes with some good passing. Then you can really take advantage of that. And sometimes you just try to wear out whoever is out there killing their penalty too.
Yeah.
So it serves 2 purposes.
Well, we appreciate it as always. Great stuff, Jay. Let's see this team right the ship, and can't wait to break down some playoff hockey coming up next week.
Exciting things coming our way.
Let's do it. Jay Stevens, host of the Utah Puck Report. You catch him over at KSLSports.com, and when good things happen, it usually involves Jay Stevens making an appearance on this show. Those 2 things are not unrelated. So if Utah loses 2 in a row, we get Jay on. They're going to get a W tomorrow.
Well, if this does fix it, it's going to – we might have to get him on again Wednesday.
I don't care if that dude's on a ladder with a hose in his hands, taking down, trying to save a 2-story house.
We've had him on before when actually the alarm's gone off.
We're going to have him on. Again, Jay Stevens, not just a hockey expert, but a firefighter. I mean, there's some guys that are just dudes, man. They're just dudes. And you'd like to think that you're a dude, and then you talk to Jay Stevens, who is, whipping through a knee replacement surgery like it's nothing. He is I'm not saying he's old, but he's getting up there in age, but he'll still stop a puck coming in at 90 miles an hour, and he's going to fight fire at the same time. Come on. That's a dude right there.
One of the toughest guys around.
That's freaking John Wayne right there. All right, Jaren Jackson Jr., his media availability as the Jazz cleaning out the locker rooms, getting ready for the we're getting ready for the postseason, not the playoffs, but just
the off season.
The off season,
yeah,
I guess,
is
what I should. Not the postseason. No. The off season. You'll hear from Jaren Jackson Jr. coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This guy actually has friends. Nice. This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Jazz all done. The 25-26 season has now been officially parked in the driveway, and now it's all about the offseason. It's all about the lottery. It's all about the coin toss coming up next week. It's all about the draft and then free agency, and off we go as the Jazz now are in winning mode. No more tanking. No more trying to get lottery position. No, it's all about trying to win some games, trying to get the playoffs, which, by the way, Lloyd pointed out that he thought I was getting a little, I was walking back the playoff prognosis. No, the Jazz will be in the playoffs next year.
Okay.
They will be
a little more reserved in
sorry,
that first segment.
And I did, that wasn't intended.
Second segment.
That wasn't intended.
Okay.
The Jazz very much will be in the playoffs next year.
I was like, geez, what happened?
I'm not even going to say playing.
What did I miss?
I'm not even saying playing.
No,
they're
better. They're better than a play-in. I don't care what you say. They stay
playoff.
healthy. They are better than a play-in.
6 or higher.
Absolutely. Yes.
The reason why? Well, it all started with the acquisition of this player, Jaren Jackson Jr., who has been kind of out of sight, out of mind. The Jazz pulled the trigger on the trade, and then we saw what he could do, and then he was quickly relegated to the bench. The injury, I guess I should say, relegated him to the bench. But here is Jaren Jackson Jr., his time already in Utah and looking ahead to next season.
What's kind of the last couple months been like for you? I mean, getting to know the guys, but not being on the court. What has this all been like?
I mean, it's been fun. Every day just being around them, rehabbing and working hard, and I'm glad I got those 3 games under my belt before, so I'm overjoyed for that.
Where is your knee? What's the latest?
What's what?
Where's your knee as far as health goes?
Oh, it's fine. It's progressing normally, exactly how it should, and I'll be 100% for the season, but definitely 100% to train this summer, the whole entire summer.
Is that scary to find out when someone says, like, tumor?
Is it scary? Probably. You know, I think I heard it, like, pretty early in the morning, so I was a bit like, oh, damn. But, yeah, it's something, it's life, man. Everyone's got a problem or everyone doesn't have a problem until you have one, so I think I was happy they were with me on it and directed me in the right way to take care of myself.
Lowry just told us that he was surprised, not in a bad way, but like when you got here, that you were way more detail oriented than he was expecting, and like picking up on small things and just like ready to talk right away. Did you want to kind of come in and make sure everyone knew that like this is a part of who I am?
Well, I think that's probably naturally who I've been, especially later in my career. I've watched a lot of guys, older than me when I was in Memphis, and they, seeing what they do and taking different parts of that, making it my own. And yeah, he's right. I'm always thinking about the game, and when we're not out there, we're always talking about X and O's and how we like the ball and where we like doing things. So I think that'll help us kind of speed run. You can't really speed run it, but speed run on-court chemistry a little bit, kind of get ahead quicker.
Having watched this team now for 2 months, what excites you about next season?
Our size, our versatility, the talent levels off the charts. There's really not much to not like. I mean, everybody's playing hard out there. The offensive system's great. And just I'm glad to be able to come here and do whatever it takes to help and lead and compete. And, yeah.
What can you do to help the defense? I mean, this year it's bottom of the league. You're known as a defensive stopper. What can you do to help the team? What can one person do to help the team change their ways?
Just go. I mean, whenever the ball, just go. I think when I was out there, I get sample size, but, they're releasing me to go to the rim from wherever I'm at, and they'll organize around me and recover around me. So not just rotations that are set, with whoever's there go, but actually having me go. And I think just talking early and loud will help us because, the guards can't see behind their head, and that'll help them a lot.
How do you like to attack your off seasons? Like in the past, what have you done training wise? What are you hoping to get done this year?
Yeah. Definitely needs to change now that I'm older a bit. I probably needed to do, well, depends how you look at it, but I probably needed to do a little bit less early. I think I would like to just hop right back on the court, like after any series when if I had lost a series or if we didn't make the playoffs, I was probably back on the court quicker than probably I should have been. And I think taking that time off from it is good, but I've been also rehabbing, so it's a different type of timeline. And just working on my body and my conditioning and really getting in the best shape, I think, is my number one priority. Like, I'm not thinking of anything else but that, because, you can use conditioning as a weapon for real. Like, it's a huge thing, especially in Utah, so.
What have you learned about Will?
Will? What have I learned about Will? I mean, he loves the game. He loves to compete. He's fiery. Definitely wants to win all the time. So I think that fits in great with who I am as a person. Open dialogue about who I am, just so he knows how to get the best out of me, coaching me, and yeah, he's great.
Well, do you like hard coaching? Do you need someone to come in a little bit softer? Because everyone's different with that. What do you like?
I mean, what do you like? I mean, I feel like, I don't think, like, as a player, you don't get to pick that. I think you adapt to what you're in and be grateful for the opportunity. I don't know if I've ever had that. I mean, I had Coach Izzo, so I know what's up and down the line. In high school, it was same sort of thing. I've seen hard coaching in my life, so I don't think I've known much else. I don't know any coaches that aren't hard, honestly.
I think there's some coaches that are like, they know that there's some guys on the team that, like, if they get really, really into them, then they're not going to react the best, so like they can be a little bit harder on some guys than others.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he's hard on me. I hope that sets the precedent for everything down the line. I want to be coached, and that's the only way you're going to grow.
As you think about this team getting healthy and playing again with you and Key and Walker and Lowry, like, just what do you think about the potential of this team next season in a pretty loaded Western Conference?
Yeah, there's no take every game for what it is. Don't look ahead. I know about the Western Conference. It's a bloodbath every year. That will never change, and I think that's the excitement about it. It's gonna be fun to compete every night. You're seeing these teams 4 times, learning them. So then when you get to the postseason, you figured out what they do, they figure out what you do, and you just got to do everything perfect or try to do everything perfect. I think the West is never going to change, and you just got to stay humble and put your head down and just work. You can't really look too much. You don't know where guys are going to be in the league come next season with the moves happening in the summer, but I guarantee you a lot of them will be in the West.
Having been around for a couple months, what stands out about the consistency of the support from Jazz fans?
Selling out games. I think when I'm walking around, just the dialogue is pretty interesting. Like they kind of skip the whole hello thing. They kind of just go right, hey, like they'll be like, hey, how's the knee? Is it good? That'll be like the first thing they'll say to me instead of hi. Kind of like, they're already in the system. They're already, I'm coming into their ecosystem a little bit. So it's unwavering support everywhere. Shoot, Park City, walk around downtown. I mean, you're gonna feel that. For sure gonna feel it tonight in our last home game.
You're going close to anyone inside the locker room specifically? Anyone you've gotten to know very well?
I mean, well, I came over here with my boys. I think with my schedule with when I started rehabbing versus when I was playing, like I was around Keontae a lot more. I think we've been pretty much in the gym at the same time all the time. So, conditioning-wise, we've been bouncing ideas off each other on how we want to approach the off-season. And then Lau is a psycho with just how he works. And I'm just, we're bouncing ideas off each other on what we can do to improve. Zay, EJ, Ace. Yeah, it's been fun. I mean, plane ride's been fun. You know these guys. I mean, y'all know them even better than I know them, and these are fun guys.
I'll ask it kind of in a more pointed way. Do you think that this roster can make the playoffs?
100%.
There it is, 100%. I'm with you. Jaren Jackson Jr. Can this team make the playoffs? 100%. Now, look, he's not going to say 50-50, 75-25. No, of course he's going to say 100%. But, look, there's sometimes you say that and you're like,
Was a little bit different. Was that Austin earlier? Because that same question was asked with Austin, and he was like,
Austin is a little bit more diplomatic.
Right.
And I understand that. And also Will Hardy was asked about that.
Yes.
Will's like, look, I don't know what our roster is going to look like, and you can't really figure out injuries and how that's going to play out. But, okay, I'll say this right now. I don't know who the Jazz are going to pick in the draft. I don't know where they're going to draft. So let's just take the draft pick and throw it out, okay? Let's just say that whoever the Jazz pick, let's just assume it's in the 5 to 8 range, and it will be a solid rotational player that doesn't offer you much, but a nice rotation player. So let's just look at your starting 5 then. Keontae George, and then you got Jaren Jackson Jr., probably at the 3, Lauri Markkanen at the 4, Kessler at the 5, Ace Bailey, slide him at the 2, I guess. So, but anyway, in some way, shape, or form, that's your starting 5. That's a playoff team. Now, that's a starting lineup. Now, you're going to need some depth, and I think you've got that as well that you've worked on, but that 5 gives you a playoff caliber starting 5, especially if Ace Bailey continues to grow and develop the way that we all think he will.
Well,
now, injuries can derail that in a hurry. Yes.
Let's be honest. Had they not had that protected 8th pick, and they just went right at it and were, you know what, let's go. I just think this team could have been. That's a play-in team.
Yes,
that's a playoff team. They could have gotten to the playoffs.
100%.
100%. I mean, you look at Golden State; they're 37-45. So, I mean, I just think they're right there on the edge.
So, playoffs should absolutely be 100%. As you, as a fan base that have gone through the Siberia of fandom over the last 3 or 4 years, you as a fan have every right to have realistic expectations next year for the Utah Jazz to be a playoff team. And again, health, all kinds of issues can come into play. But you as a fan, it is completely fair and fine for you to look at this offseason and say, I don't even care where we pick. If we pick number 1, 2, or 3, that's awesome. Outstanding. Let's go. That's even better. That's the cherry on top. But even if, worst case scenario, you lose the coin flip and you fall to 9 as that 0.4 chance that you don't even hold on to that pick, it goes to OKC, guess what? That's still a playoff team. It is still 1,000% acceptable for you as a fan of the Utah Jazz to expect this team to go to the playoffs. Now, Austin Ainge probably doesn't want that out there. Will Hardy probably doesn't want that big of a statement, but I think it's fair. I think it's 1,000% fair for what you've dealt with and the issues that you've been as a fan. You've supported this team through thick and thin. You've been right there with them. You still go to the Delta Center. You're still cheering. You're still getting crazy with this team. Now it's time for you to be rewarded. And I think it's fine for you to expect playoffs next year. All right, we'll wrap up this bad boy next. Get you ready for JJ and Alex straight ahead, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, wrapping up another edition of the show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. JJ and Alex coming up next as, hey, good show today, Lloyd.
Yeah, not bad. That's a slam dunk show right there.
Yeah, that's a fish in a barrel show.
Yeah.
It's not a tough one today. But, yeah, we got Mammoth to talk about coming up this week. Obviously, the Jazz, more post-season analysis of where this team is at. More importantly, where they're going. Larry Markkinen will maybe touch on some of those other conversations that took place earlier today throughout the week.
By the way, Mammoth fans, don't panic. Don't panic. That's a good Carolina team.
Yeah.
It's a really good Carolina team. And Calgary's actually, the record, they're actually pretty good at home. They're actually pretty good at home.
Yeah.
So,
and
don't
who
panic.
really wants
granted, it was essentially you gave up 8 goals and only scored 2. So, yes. But guess what? You just had like 4 games where it was exact opposite. 5 games where it was the exact opposite where you were scoring a lot of goals. So, don't panic. I would take a little bit more, see what happens in this game coming up tomorrow against the Jets. And then maybe you can see where this team's at. Don't panic.
I saw some pictures from our guy, Mike Folta, who was up in Calgary. Whew. That looks frigid. That looks frigid.
Places I would not like to live.
No. And look, I'm sure Calgary's a wonderful place in July, maybe August, even April, middle of April.
You might
it doesn't
get a couple
look,
weeks.
Yeah.
Just a couple weeks there.
Yeah, no. I want no part of that. I think that's why, you got guys waving their trade clause and be like, no, I'm good to leave.
Yes.
Let's maybe move on somewhere else. All right, so JJ and Alex coming up next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, join us coming up tomorrow on the show. Speaking of the Mammoth, we'll have a weekly chat with the general manager of the Utah Mammoth, Bill Armstrong. Will join us coming up tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We'll talk some Mammoth with him, get you ready for that Winnipeg game as well. It's all right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.